you went and I'm glad that you brought that up and you brought that home, because that was basically my point. A lot of men get criticized about that, and it affects these men. But what happened in your situation, you were brought to an understanding of something that you didn't understand previously, and that's what brought on that compassion. And I think that a lot of men would say, because we do a lot of damage to each other, like you said, because some guys do these things just to build a platform. They know that there's a situation out there. They won't talk about it. They only talk about the women who are not doing so well. They only search for photos of women who aren't doing what they're supposed to do, but they never talk to the women who got their stuff together. Okay. And so I think a lot of these guys see a trend that's going on with their rift between men. There's rift between men and women, and they build a platform off of that. And I'm going to go hard in this because, like I said, as Raymond said earlier, and I agree with you. Now, when it comes down to manhood, there is a willingness there. But one of the things that I did, I made it my point. I said, you know what? I'm going to get this and I'm going to stand on it, because there are so many men who came before me who stood on their manhood. I remember something that Dr. King said. He said, never let anyone take away your manhood. So there's some places in my life that I am going to stand solid on, 10 toes down, and I'm not going to be moved. Just like that tree, I'm not going to be moved in spite of the storms, in spite of the hate, regardless of what comes, because my life is much bigger than me. It's not about me. Okay. And so I'm going to stand on these principles, regardless of whatever is out there, because so many people on social media want to be famous. And so they build these platforms and they don't help the situation. All they do is ruin it, So I'm glad you brought that up, because she trusted you enough to have that conversation with her, and from that you found compassion. It's unfortunate that so many people are going to leave here and not get this. And that's sad. So, Brother Raymond, so many of us, and I love the way that Brother Lorenzo articulated this, because he brought it home from start to finish. He brought it home and he made an excellent point. So many men walk around, and goes back to what Lorenzo said. Who told you this? Who taught you this? What kind of seed that was planted in you to make you think this? So many men, and I would just specifically talk about African American men, we walk around with this hard exterior, okay? And some of us feel like showing compassion to other men, because if we are strong in areas of our lives, let's say, for instance, I need to understand how to allocate funds. I'm getting paid, whether I own my own business or whether I have a job, but I'm getting paid. I'm getting regular income coming in. Now, it's not about how much coming in, it's what you do with it, how you allocate those funds. I'm reminded of the book, The Millionaire Next Door. And I tell people all the time, go read that book, go read that book. That's a great book. And so many men out here criticize other men because other men show compassion. And I love the way Brother Lorenzo brought that home. So, but black men have been taught to walk around with this hard exterior, and we don't show compassion. We do when the camera is on. I'm saying when the camera is off, but we don't do it when the camera is on. But we don't realize we're sending a message to these young boys out here, and these young boys are going to grow up trying to be like men that they shouldn't be, and all it's doing is ruining our community. But there's one thing that I do stand on. I stand hard on this. You cannot come to me, and I know both of these areas need to be discussed, but you cannot come to me calling a woman the B word and have a conversation with me about systemic racism. We're not going to have that conversation until you straighten this over here. Don't come in my house and attack my wife, and then you want to talk about the economy. It's not going to happen. We're not going to have that conversation, okay? So I think that so many of us as men, we ruin the mindsets of so many other men. I want to read something to you before I let you answer this. It was a book called As a Man Thinketh, and it's It's by a gentleman by the name of James Allen. And he said, a man is literally what he thinks, his character being and the complete sum of all his thoughts. As the plant springs from and could not be without the seed, so every act of a man springs from the hidden seeds of thought and could not have appeared without them. This implies equally to those who acts called spontaneous and unpremeditated, as to those which are deliberately executed. Now, what he's saying is the thoughts determines your attitude, and your attitude determines your behavior, and your behavior will dictate your outcome. Okay, so why is it that so many black men have been taught to walk around with this hard exterior, but yet when you see them, and that's accepted, but you see another man who shows compassion, that man is criticized? Why do you think that?
It all goes back to convoluted understanding of manhood, and not a true, sincere understanding of what a man really is. Being compassionate is one of those layers, like I spoke about earlier, of being a man. Compassion is one of them. Compassion is simply concern at an emotional level. And being a man, we have to have concern outside of ourselves and outside of our own desires at an emotional level. And that's what kind of completes us and goes back to what you're saying, Brother James. You said something that really struck me. You said, I'm going to stand. It's some things that I'm just going to stand on as a man. And that's what's missing right there. Compassion is not a fragile, it's not a fragile thing for a man to possess. It's a necessary thing. And it's interesting that you said about the thinking process. And this is why the understanding of a man being compassionate, as being associated with weakness, is because of the thinking process. Okay, because as a man think, so is he. If you've been taught that showing any type of emotional concern is weakness, then a seed is planted in your mind. And just like Brother Lorenzo said, the mind is like fertile ground. No matter what you plant in it, it's going to return it. You can plant poison in it, and guess what it's going to do? It's going to return poison. Or you can plant the things that are nourishing and healthy, and it's going to return that. It doesn't care what it returns. No matter what I plant in that ground, it's going to return it. And that's what the mind is. When we plant these convoluted understandings of manhood into the mind, then that's what comes out. So why are we surprised when we say, okay, if you come from the hood like me, you're taught was planted in your mind in many cases. And I'm not going to say all, but in many cases, in my particular instance, is dominating women and being physical. So those things were planted at a young age without the proper gardening, and I mean the proper guidance of a man and woman who are really associated, connected to the principles of God, so that convoluted thinking process won't take root. So because once it take root, it's definitely going to grow, just like that ground.
Yeah.
If I throw nightshade in the ground, which is a poison, guess what's coming up? And see, my thinking now has been interrupted by society's understanding of what compassion is. It's not weakness. It's another layer of being a man.
Yeah.
It's simply the concern at an emotional level. That's all compassion really is. I have a concern, so I need to stop and think about my actions. Now, when Brother Lorenzo was speaking about the incident with Chris Rock and Will Smith, once again, that's a violation on his manhood, but it was no compassion shown by Will Smith. No thought process about, well, I'm going to do this on national television. That man has children. He have loved ones watching. You're going to degrade him in that manner. Well, there's something wrong with you. Something's broken in there. There was no compassion process. Did that make him look like a man? No. To me, no. Definitely not.
Right.
It made him look to me less of a man. And I understand the concern Brother Lorenzo was saying about, okay, the woman may have had an issue or whatever it may have been, but this is where compassion comes in. Even when we see people doing things almost inappropriately, we should have, as men, enough compassion to understand, I got to wait a minute. If this is not directly impacting me, I need to have compassion about where this person is coming from.
Right.
I got to have a compassion about, and once again, compassion is simply a concern at an emotional level. Why is this brother acting a fool? Why is this brother acting this way? Why is he so loud all the time? Why is he so rude?
Right.
And so if I have compassion like a man should have, I'm not going to just write him off as an idiot or things of that nature. I should be thinking from an emotional level, okay, something may be going on with this particular person that has them acting this way. It's not my job to go up and slap them. And we do that a lot of times emotionally to people. Just what Will Smith did to Chris Rock, we do that to them with judgment. It's just like a smack in the face.
Right.
And we're just as guilty of not being compassionate. But once again, these things are planted in us. You know what? Me and my wife were home for my first cousin got married. I call her a sister. She got married. And we were home and we were amongst family having a conversation. Very interesting thing took place. And I love to be in those settings where you're just around family and you just organically having a conversation.
Right.
So one of my cousins was saying, he was complaining about, well, once my sons get 21 or 25 or whatever, they got to get out my house. They got to get out my house. I don't care what the situation is or nothing. They got to go. Now, to me, I looked at it differently. Right. Everybody at a certain age is not ready to go out into the world. And this is what I mean about compassion. If I'm compassionate, meaning that I'm concerned emotionally about this situation or this condition. Right. Is this person, just because he's 25, ready to go out there? Or am I putting just a hard standard of what a convoluted understanding of what a man is? You're going to be a man. Oh, you're going to get out my house. That's something they heard as well. It's something they repeated. Right. And so you're repeating that over and over again. You're planning in the mind a convoluted understanding of what compassion is. You start, no compassion. I got to make him hard. You got to be tough. You got to get out there and go get it. And you know he's not ready. Now, when I read scripture, I don't remember Abraham getting kicked out of his father's house. He left out his father's house. Right. And God called him. I don't remember Lot getting kicked out as well. He left when he felt he was ready. He didn't get kicked out.
Good point.
And this is one thing that in our community, we tend to regurgitate these type of thought processes that we've heard, that we think is a convoluted understanding of what a man is. Remember, the compassion is another layer.
That's right.
Why would I send my son out at 25 and know he's not really ready, and send him out to a world and something happened? And now I don't know what I did wrong. Now you're thinking about what you should have done, or you're crying about this, or you're worried about that, when the convoluted understanding that you were taught probably from your father, and from the grandfather, just like Brother John was saying, these are what the Bible called generational curses, in a sense. That understanding that has to be broken, and the only way they're broken is that when we do have, and I gotta keep going back to spirituality, it corrects all of these misrepresentations of manhood, right? Especially in men, and we as men, a lot of it has been, a lot of bad seeds have been planted. Remember, nightshade is like a poison. You plant it in there, it's gonna grow. The mind don't care. It don't care what it returns once it's put in there.
That's right.
And it's gonna definitely return what you're planning it.
Right.
So if I plan it, and me and we were having a conversation, I said, well, I'm of a different understanding. I don't believe in putting something I say that I love or someone I say that I love in a situation where they're not ready for it and I'm forcing them into it.
Right.
Now, to me, that's a convoluted understanding of manhood, which lacks compassion, which is emotional concern. That's all that is. If I love you, I have to be emotionally concerned about you. That's a part of me being a man.
Right.
Okay, so when we meet our young orphans out here, because I gotta keep calling them orphans that didn't have the proper people in their lives to help nurture them. And when I see these things come out of them, you know, which looks like disrespect, it just looked like vile things coming out of them. Now, if I am a man, like I say, and I know that I am, I'm not pleased with that at all.
That's right.
But I have to have an emotional concern, that's compassion, about what they may have experienced and why is this coming out of them. What seeds of discourse, seeds of not having compassion at all, seeds of not understanding how to be a real man, and you're just going by what the understanding of a convoluted understanding of what a man is. Be hard, be physical, shoot up the place if they disrespect you.
Right, right.
You know, screw every woman you can, as many as you can. Don't care about how many baby mamas you got. Just keep on going. Don't worry about it. That'll take care of itself. You see, that's planted. And that's what, when we see it come out, well, we got to understand what that is. It's a misrepresentation of manhood that's been planted into the fertile minds of these young men and women. Because the women are the same too. We got the same thing. Those seeds that are planted, all you got to do is look on Facebook or one of these social media things for 5 minutes and you see a misrepresentation.
That's right.
It don't take long.
That's right.
And so compassion to me, brother, like I said, I don't see compassion is not weakness. And
right.
The only way that someone would call compassion weakness is that they have been planted, the seeds of these of convolution and convoluted thought process has been planted in their mind. And we have to be able to identify that for what it is.
Wow, that's powerful. For those of you listening, don't miss this. I'm telling you,